Mr. V Ramesh, the Chairman and Managing Director at REC, joins us right now on the show. Standard disclosure, they're in a silent period. We won't be able to talk too much about the numbers, but let's get the broad outlook here. Mr. Ramesh, good having you. Thanks so much for taking the time out and speaking with us. I want to actually start off with that piece of news that came in at the Times of India about the Punjab State Electricity Regulatory Commission okaying this small hike in the fuel cost adjustment surcharge as well. Whether due to this or other reasons, do you believe some of the other states, SEBs could follow suit and we might be staring at a slightly higher price? It might be bad news for select consumers, but it's probably a much needed news for the SEBs and for the power firms.
Good morning and thank you for having me. One of the important requirements of Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana is that every state government and every Discom must file its annual tariff propositions before the regulator, and which is very positive in the sense that the regulator then have an opportunity to look at the entire ecosystem and then make his award or his or her award. So there's a regular review by the regulator, so I wouldn't like to comment. I mean, obviously the regulator has reasons for the award that he has given in case of Punjab, and I'm sure the similar things would happen, and this is the way the market operates.
Okay. Now, the reason why this becomes crucial, Mr. Ramesh, is that about 6 to 9 or 12 months ago, at least the equity markets, if not everybody, started pricing in a better and a quicker than expected recovery in the stress that existed in the power space. Somehow, for whatever reason, and the multitude of reasons which impact this space, we haven't seen that quite happening. The recent comments, if I'm to believe, from the power minister as well, seem to suggest that there will not be a quick fix to this issue. It'll be some time away. The question mark, therefore, that comes to every investor's mind is that if every time we are going to be talking about a slightly longer time frame than what was anticipated, just how long before we see some resolutions which will help the companies do better, which will fare the SEBs to do better, which will probably help companies like you as well do much better. When is that time coming?
I think the conversation so far, both in the media and in the markets, has largely been centered on the few non-performing assets. And this is a small part of the story. I mean, maybe about 10% of the generation units have some level of stress. But let's look at the overall ecosystem, and I think it's appropriate to place it in the larger context of what's happening. And one of the weakest segments in the power sector had been the distribution segment. The government under Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana and Saubhagya IPDS together is making an investment of 1 lakh crores over a period of, this is as a grant, just over a period of 2 years. And then this is in addition to almost another 1 lakh crores that is being taken as loans by the distribution companies. I mean, what's really happening is a massive push in areas hitherto unconnected, new consumers being brought in. Now, Saubhagya alone brings in almost 4 crore new consumers connected with the power system. I mean, this means so much more revenue to the distribution companies. Now, this is being backed up with a massive investment in strengthening the distribution system. Now, as we speak, the last village in the country is being electrified. I mean, you would have no village that does not have power almost in few days from today. So this level of efforts that are being made, and particularly in the segment that has hitherto been muted or not had the required investment, is a massive transformational change. This has not been adequately heard, and this is matched with the Uday scheme, the massive Discom revitalization scheme initiative, which is, we've only talked about the financial restructuring, but this is being accompanied with a substantial investment in the technology upgradation, operational efficiency, as specific benchmarks for performance by the distribution companies. Now, take together all these different components and elements together, you really see a massive transformation in the distribution segment. And concurrently, what's happening also is the investment that's taking place in the interstate and intrastate transmission network upgradation. Now, in the past 1 year alone, about 60,000 crores of contracts have been awarded through a tariff-based competitive bidding in the interstate transmission infrastructure segment. Now, this is a massive investment again to even out, and several states are doing similar investments. So all this is part of the good story. I mean, this is exactly the way the dissonance between the demand and supply would be harmonized, and this would take a little time. And we hope this will happen as soon as possible, and perhaps happened yesterday. But it certainly, these are, I mean, one needs to look at the efforts that are being made, investments that are being absorbed, the contracts that are being awarded, and the push that is being made, and the overall transformation that's taking place. I think we need to put all this together when we talk about the power sector. And what we've been hearing is essentially of few coal-fired thermal power projects that are at different levels of stress. I mean, those are important. We are working consistently with the partner financing entities, government, and the RBI to ensure that these are brought on board. However, the important story really that needs to be told is this larger efforts that are being made. I mean, the government's Saubhagya alone, I mean, in less than 365 days to electrify 4 crore households.
Sure.
I think it's a massive, extraordinary effort that needs to be recognized and appreciated.
Mr. Ramesh, nobody's...
Yes.
So, okay, I'm not debating that. The question mark is, one is the social aspect and the importance of such a move too, but two is the business aspect for others. Now, T&D, even during the last 4 or 5 years or 6 years, that pocket has been doing reasonably well. I think the question marks only have come about over, one, the power producers, and you rightly said they are stressed assets, and two would be in turn what happens to some companies like RECPFC, which are power financiers as well. So let me try and narrow the scope of discussion. I take on board the point that you mentioned about the whole electrification and the T&D, etc. What about the stressed assets, and what about what it means for companies such as yours as well? Now, unless I'm wrong, you, RECPFC, there are comments that you may form. It's a proposal apparently from you for forming an SPV to operationalize the stressed assets. Why are you doing this? What are the benefits that come in for REC as a company?
Let me place this in a perspective. Number one is 85% of our exposure, the REC's exposure, is in the with the government sector, of which about 55% of the total exposure of our loan book is in the T&D segment. So it's important what I've spoken. Second one is, this is not merely a social effort. This makes an abundant commercial sense. I mean, just imagine 40 million new consumers on the books of the distribution companies, obviously paying money. So this would have a big impact on the demand for generation. I mean, this alone must push up the demand for power, and also, of course, make it commercially viable. But coming back to the stressed generation segment, I mean, we have a low exposure as far as the thermal power projects are concerned. However, we are a part of a consortium in virtually almost all these projects, and there are about 7-8 major financiers in the power sector, as you are aware, and we are working together because we all have a common stake. And then we are not looking at only at the REC. REC certainly has a much lower non-performing assets compared to any other financial institution. So we are interested because these are national assets. We believe that there is a stake for the future in terms of ensuring that these assets do not, they retain their value until such time the demand picks up. So several states are now coming up for power purchase, and we hope that this purchasing process would be accelerated in the coming months. And so in the intermediate period that we are working on a proposal to warehouse these, the minister has talked about it, some of these assets, retain their value, continue to perform them till such time there is a much higher market for these assets. So that's a proposal still under examination at various levels. So you would know it once it takes shape fully.
Okay, how much I would love to ask you about the numbers that goes along with this, but Mr. Ramesh, I think we'll have to postpone that for another time, because I completely appreciate the fact that you're in a silent period and can't really talk numbers. So maybe we'll do those once you come out with the numbers. But thank you so much for taking the time out and putting this into perspective. It's good to know that there are operational pieces within the power space that are doing rather well and are seeing having the backing of the powers to be as well. Good having you today. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.